All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Project V podcast. I'm Nova, and this is.
Codec.
We need to figure out the intro, my god.
We okay.
There is no intro,
We
just
will
chaos.
we will eventually.
Nothing but
It's just
chaos.
us
Us. We're the
talking about
chaos.
stuff.
Vampires. That's chaotic enough on its own, especially the VC. Well,
Especially with the drama.
oh my god. Yeah, VC
Especially.
drama. Vampires love their drama. I've been saying this. Nobody believes me until they start saying it and they're like, oh, you're so right for that. I know.
That,
I am.
that's why that's why I stay sheltered. I just get it from you.
Just hear about it from me. Oh, this is happening over here.
Yep.
The world is burning.
Welcome to Welcome to Lady Nova's Tea Time. Today on the VC drama.
The tea time. Well, I keep getting like people that come to me in my DMs about like different spaces, and I always tell them like, "Hey, I'm not an overseer of like all things VC. Like, I don't have control of what your community does. That's kind of like the responsibility of those moderators to handle that situation, not mine, not mine. You know."
Pretty
But
much.
that's how I end up hearing about everything, unfortunately. Um. Anywho, yes,
We got our own circus to worry
vampires.
about.
Our
Yes.
own group.
Vampires.
The Amazing World of Vampires. So, the vampire umbrella term. I feel like this is something that's kind of difficult for the entire VC to actually truly define. There is no like true definition that's all the way across the community, you know? Like
Yep.
some spaces, I mean,
Here
they might be, they have a specific way they practice, so they divine their vampirism towards that kind of practice, while other people they don't do that.
Well, here's a question for you. How do you spell vampire? Let me ask that.
Ah, yes. So within the VC, I mean, you may see different spellings. You might see, the normal spelling of vampire being Vampire. Uh, but oftentimes you might see it spelt with a Y. This is because within the community, they want to differentiate community members from like vampire media and vampire folklore. It's just a separation, but it also can be for more of like an aesthetic purpose. Like some people like spelling the Y specifically like that. So, a lot of new members get a little bit confused when they see some of us typing with a Y. They're like, oh, why is it spelled like that? I was like, well, it's just to differentiate. Like, let's say if I'm over here talking about Twilight, like, if I were to host a VAMP
Yeah,
discussion
Twilight.
specifically about Twilight and how it differs from the community, I obviously would want to specify like Twilight vampires with an I while talking about the community with a Y, if that makes sense.
I think it does, yeah.
It just makes communication so much
Because
easier.
it also kind of tells you if it's about media based or if it's about the VC base, basically. That's what it
Mm-hmm.
seems like to me.
Yes.
All right.
I would say it's kind of common with like traditionalists, I feel like, but I think it's becoming a lot more, I don't want to say normalized, but it's a lot more common now with the new gen that they're starting to spell it with a Y. I think it's because of a lot of new resources that are being crafted lately. It's spelt with a Y. Like I know in Project V, we spell it with a Y on all of our resources. I mean, some staff might not spell it with a Y. Like I think maybe one person doesn't, but
Gotcha.
it really does differ from person to person. Gotta fight
So
the
so then
autocorrect.
tell me what is the definition of a vampire with a Y?
So I would say the label vampire is an umbrella term for various forms of feeding. So the definition of vampire is very multifaceted, as in like everyone has their own specific needs and or forms of feeding. So a lot of spaces like to define vampire as a specific need of some kind to make themselves feel whole or quote unquote normal. This could be like feeding on life force or following the vampiric archetypes and philosophies. So again, like different groups may have a specific niche within the community that they specialize in, and that's how they would define vampire, versus a lot of other people might see it differently. Some of it may see their needs as like, medical or psychological or physical, right? Uh, that's more
Yeah.
so like archetypes within the community, I feel like,
Hmm.
which
Gotcha.
we will definitely get into that later in this episode.
You foreshadow.
Foreshadowing.
Mm, foreshadow.
You can tell we're
Dum
so
dum dum.
we're so unscripted. So perfect all the time, yes. Uh
I mean,
but
sometimes that's better.
because I feel like sometimes you'll sit there and like start talking and then you're like, wait a damn minute. You actually start thinking like, wait, maybe this is the idea here. Maybe this is a topic we should talk about instead. Like, I mean, that's how it is with my vamp discussions. Like, I'll have a specific typed up, I wouldn't say it's a script, but like a guideline of what I'm going to talk about, and I accidentally start, talking off topic, as I'm doing right now at this very minute. But
Oh,
you
yeah, it's
know,
the 5 hour classes.
yes, 5 hours, 5 hours.
80 of it is Nova rambling.
Yeah, yeah. Well, people show up and they listen the whole time. That's actually why we started this podcast, because people like to ramble, or at least like to hear me ramble about the VC for some reason. So here we are. Now,
Yes, it is.
if you again picture an umbrella, right? An umbrella. And that is the
Yes.
term vampire. All right? Slap the label
Umbrella
vampire on that
Corporation.
umbrella. Yes. And
Yep.
think of anything that's under that umbrella, like it's keeping out the rain, and there's like people under the umbrella. Now think of
Um,
each person being a different like identity of like a type of feeding or purpose within the community.
mm,
So those
I see it. I see it.
terminologies and identity labels go under that umbrella of vampire. Uh, in the Strange Aeons video, the first one, not the second one that I was in, the first one, she described it as like a buffet of labels. Like the buffet is the vampire community, and you could just walk up there and whatever you feel is you identify is you pick up that label. You pick up that food item, right? So
Yep.
that's quite literally how it is within the community. And, you know, I think you don't exactly have to accept these type of terms or even have to identify as vampire or any of these labels. You really don't have to do that. I mean, there's times where I've thought of like, maybe I just don't identify as anything. I'm just me, right? I feel like, you know, that's
We
very
all hit that point.
appropriate. Yeah, I feel like that's very appropriate. And I
Yeah.
also feel like that is why some people just specifically choose to go by vampire, just straight up, just with the Y, and that's it. They just go by the umbrella term. That's it. Because it's so much easier and they don't have to like put themselves into even more different categories. Like, I did a discussion about if identity labels are like a hindrance to the community. Is it adding too much? Like, is it like causing too much separation and overcomplicating things, or does it actually really help with communicating these type of feelings and practices? And it was a very interesting discussion. I think the general consensus was like it can become too much if you start trying to make new identity labels and they end up all sounding the same in the end. But there was a lot of people that also felt like if if you have these terminologies, these are ways that you can communicate about how you feel or how you practice, and it makes it easier to find like-minded individuals.
I was gonna say that I think most people use the term to help consolidate their feelings, how they feel, what they believe in, what m- their form of feeding is, and I think that's kind of where it stems from. And then you have the sub objects of each one.
Mhm.
Like Sang has a bunch of them, Sai has a bunch of them. There are some that spin off from that primarily because of how they identify or how they believe their condition may be. So
Mhm.
that makes more sense.
And it goes from like being vampire an umbrella term, and anybody under that umbrella is that specific identity, to what like what is a better way to even like picture it? Because like you said, like Sang and Sai has their own like terms that go under that. And I think that's when a lot of people start to like shut down and is like, okay, it's becoming too much. I feel
I
like these core like identity labels could very much encompass anything if you word it vaguely enough. But people kind of want their own specific special niche role.
Yeah. I think it's like if we want to go back uh to the buffet term.
Mhm.
I think it's more of like, say you have a bunch of different foods. Each of these foods come from very different things. But if you can break it down as far as like, let's say a salad. Everyone knows what a salad is. You have
Mhm.
lettuce, you have this, you have that. I think it more breaks down to like, if you can make a salad out of lettuce as the
Mhm.
base for almost everything, then you add in, croutons or chicken or olives or whatever. I think that's where it kind of gets more muddled,
Mhm.
where it's like, yeah, you could be a saying, but then you go down the road of medical saying, or you go down the road of hybrid, which just makes it even more broad. And
Mhm.
then I just think everyone tries to be as specific as possible with their specific identity,
Mhm.
that it just becomes a never ending cascade of where does this river lead to or end.
Okay. I do like your analogy with the salad though. Like, despite how many ingredients is in that salad, it's still a salad, right? There's still
Yep.
a vampire salad.
Uh,
I love that though. I'm so stealing that. I'm gonna quote you. I'm gonna put it on the website
Go for it.
because that is
Take
like such a good way to describe it. I think we figured it out. We were over here thinking of like umbrellas
it.
or pyramids. No, it's salad. Vampiric salad. I
I
mean,
just
we
think
have.
it's, I mean, but see, here's the thing though. You can do that with almost anything. Look at chicken, for example. You have a chicken. You know what a chicken is, but then you
Mhm.
have the breast meat, you have the thighs, you have the gizzards, you have the neck, which some people do eat. You have the legs. People, even though people may not like the whole chicken, they may like aspects of that chicken. And that's another thing you could do to cure it as well. It's like a hybrid, for example. They may feed on energy or a specific type of energy, but they may also need blood, like a saying, in
Mhm.
specific terms or reasons, whether that be religious, spiritual, religious, physical.
Mhm.
There's a lot of ways you can really break it down to where people can understand it, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah. We are going to draw pictures now. We are going to like get out our paper and pencils to start drawing all these
All right, kids,
analogies.
what does your salad look like?
What is your salad? What does your vampiric salad? Does it have croutons? Does it have tomatoes? Oh my gosh, I love
Does it
that.
have olives? What's the dressing it may have?
I need somebody
Ranch?
right now. Start drawing. We need Project V art right now. I'll post it. I'll post it on the website. If one of you watching this podcast will draw it, I will post it. You hear me? It will go up on the website. Oh my gosh.
Here's your base, and then every ingredient adds to like a certain aspect.
Hell
Tomatoes
yeah.
mean this. Croutons mean that.
It's beautiful
Olives mean
though.
this.
We are all beautiful
It is.
salads. It is a beautiful, beautiful world.
Everyone makes salads.
Everyone
Some may
makes
not eat
salads.
yours, but everyone appreciates it. It's a
Yes,
beautiful salad. It
it's
is your salad.
it's beautiful. We have one that is like very sleep deprived, and then we have one person here that is deep
I have no social
deep in the juice, the very, very laughing juice.
laughing juice. I think that's you at this point.
No, 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 that's not me.
Look, listen here, all right? I'll say this. I don't drink wine, all right? I'm just saying.
Just blood. That's it.
I don't drink wine.
So, all right, now since we got that
All right.
covered, that right, vampire umbrella salad, whatever we're gonna call it, we have different, terms. I bet a lot of people that are listening are like, "What are these terms? What are they talking about?" Well, we have different kinds like sang and sigh. We'll start with those two being the more easier, right? So, sang and sigh. Sang is your blood drinkers, right? So, a lot of people in the community may define sanguinarian as someone who consumes blood to access energy or meet other needs. Again, it's very specific to that person and their kind of needs, but they do drink blood. This could be from people or animals, of course, ethically, right? So, that is like a very easy thing to define right there when we keep it just surface level like that. Then we have psychic vampires. Now, they have many different like terms over the years, but psychic vampire is more so of a term that describes someone who feeds on energy, but they have very specific sub identity labels that go under it to encompass the type of energies they may feed on. But at the end of the day, it does revolve around energy. It's not specifically always physical. It could definitely be uh, through energy exchange, take and exchange, right? So now we're going to talk about hybrids. Hybrids is very interesting because I feel like hybrids aren't talked about enough. Like, I think recently, I wouldn't say recently. I don't know. Words aren't wording right now. I would I would say with like at least in Project V, right? There's a lot of people like I can see when someone switches their identity labels, and this is very common. People always question. I always encourage people to always question their identity, question like how they feel, how has it changed since they first awakened to now, like how much has it evolved? And I've noticed a lot of people turning towards the hybrid label. And this could be because they find, other ways to, cater to their needs, but also how they perceive identity as a whole. Like, I don't know, when I describe sanguinarian, right? Like, what did I specifically say that, base level sanguinarians, like, what did they drank blood for, like, energetic needs, right?
Yep.
That's a very common way for people to define that, and it's not always for everybody that defines it like that, but, that sounds a lot like a psychic vampire, doesn't it? Because it involves energy.
It's just in a different form.
Exactly. It's the raw physical form, and that's how they access it. So it's kind of like, you know, huh, that kind of sounds a bit psychic vampire like. So, when you start thinking like that, I feel like you can't help but think, like, oh, hybrid, right? Like you are drinking blood in the most physical form, but you're also, you're seeing it as like an energy exchange, right? Like life force is, physical, but also yet energetically not there. So, I think a lot of people have reevaluated how they see their identity, and they may see the vampiric archetype differently now, and that's why they identify as a hybrid, or terminologies have evolved for them, or they might just got a new preference through the feeding method. So it's very interesting. And again, it's not really talked about a lot, but I'm hoping eventually, with the amount of people I've seen who have switched from being so sang leaning or so psi leaning and have just switched to hybrid, that there's going to be more conversations about hybrid identity. Like, we have a
Gotcha,
new
gotcha.
mentor that's, like, to my knowledge, who is going to be hybrid specific. So that's going to be very interesting to see discussions from him and his perspective, and see like if anyone else relates to it in some form. It'd be very cool.
I think it would be.
So, right, we've talked
All
about
right.
the big three. The big three.
So now we get into more specifics. How do we want to categorize this one? Because primarily in my head, there's
Mhm.
really only two. Hybrid can be a part of it, but I think once the other two are discussed, then hybrid becomes a little bit more of an aha moment for most
Aha.
people. Ha! Ha! Ha!
I
Anyway,
Yes, go ahead.
first one. Let's talk about. I think we'll probably get the smallest one out of the way. Let's do sing. So that's
Yes.
pretty. It's pretty simplified at this point because there's only
Mhm.
one way to really get that, or one form of getting that.
Mhm. So, I mean, would you like to discuss the other alternative term that would go under saying?
I mean, it's with that one, it's more of a ideology of
Mhm.
it. So with saying, you do have the ones that drink blood, but then you have the offshoot of that, which is called medical saying. That one is more of the fact of, hey, I drink blood for the physical need because I get physically sick. I have issues that can't be explained by doctors. Autoimmune disease, or not a disease, but autoimmunity, migraines, headaches, fatigue. List goes on. Primarily with medical saying, it's more of a physical need for the blood than a
Mhm.
spiritual or energy based need.
Okay.
Whereas with saying, it's more, it can be a hybrid of both,
Mhm.
but I've noticed primarily with saying it's more either going to be related towards spiritual, religious, or um a little bit of both. Maybe it is medical, but more spiritual for that person.
Yeah. No, I think that that was really well described. Like, you know, I think medsings get a misconception about them that they're not religious. And like, no, no, they can be religious, but they don't see the medsing
Yep.
identity being specifically religious or vampiric. Like, they don't identify as vampiric. Uh, that gets into the Psy versus Sang wars, but we will not be discussing that in this episode. More
No,
foreshadowing.
that'll have to be another one in the
Yes,
very near future.
it'd be a very, very
So much
long one.
information. You're I would suggest for that one, once we get there, coffee, tea, and maybe other stuff.
Yes, yes.
All along.
'Cause it's a lot. It is
A
a
bingo
lot.
card. A bingo card would be nice with that one.
When I was discussing with Strange Aeons about, the various communities and, various resources that came up, the Cybers of Sangwar came up through, historic context. And, you know, I think it was pretty easy to describe, you know, once you understood like the perspectives on both sides of it, and, when you really learn about the various archetype, like the type of archetypes that play into the VC. I think, it was very I think it was informative to a lot of people. And I hope it does serve as a really good resource for people who are new to the community.
And I just hope it doesn't repeat itself.
Yeah, and that's the only thing we could do is spread awareness about that and then be like, "Hey, we're over this. This is what happened in the past and like everything's good now." Like you learn to live
Yeah.
and let live.
But
But,
but it has fractured the community a bit though.
mhm. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I generational traumas like, you know,
Yeah.
but I think people are getting in a state where, COVID really matured a lot of people and kind of was a wake up call for many and was like, hey, let's not repeat that. And I think the community has gone more towards a positive direction when it comes to, identity labels and respecting each other based off of those labels.
It's gotten to more of, hey, you're this, I'm this. We respect you, you respect me, everything's kosher.
Yeah, literally.
That's how it's
But
become.
yeah, and it's nice, and people can have their own like I can't speak. They can have their own communities with a very like specific identity for that kind of education towards that identity, and other people have like their own. Like there's like psychic vampire servers that only educate about psychic vamps. There's like sanguinarian servers that only educate about sanguinarian, and then you got spaces like Project V that does like all of them, or at least tries to do all of them, tries to educate all of it. It's more of like a one stop shop for education when it comes to the various identity labels. So it's like, it's really
It's
nice to
definitely
see.
it's definitely a good hub to start out with.
Hmm.
That way you get a good ground rule about who what identity is what each one believes in, and you kind of go from there on your own. You
Yeah.
may find other spaces that are more focused, and that's okay.
Oh, yeah. Like we'll go
Project V
and,
is meant to be educational.
like we'll go and recommend like other spaces too. Like, oh, it seems like you're very interested in this space. Like, there's this entire like space over here that is, pertains to this identity. You know. Uh, but anywho, so
All right,
yeah, med saying, right? We have that down. They don't
we have
identify
staying down
as vampiric or anything.
now. Now this is going to be more your area of expertise.
Okay.
Psychic.
Mm.
Let's break that one down because that's the bigger uh, envelope in this salad. That's the dressing, I would say.
It's a very, very. It's definitely drowning and dressing, all right. There is like so many terms that like psychic vampires have. Personally, like I think I'm a bit biased. Like, I don't know. My perception of identity is off and on. It always changes. I think that's a good thing. But,
It
you
is.
know, I think like before I used to think like, oh yeah, we need all of these like identity labels under psychic vamp to describe. And then now I'm kind of sitting here like maybe not. Maybe not, because then educators like myself has to go to each and every single label and be like, okay, this is what this is, and then this is what this is, and then this is what like, it becomes a long list.
It's so much.
Now, I would say there is a couple of like labels that are under the psychic vamp that I think should 100% stay because of the context of it. So, right, we have psychic vampire, which is, I guess you would call it the one of the core identity labels under the vampire label. Uh, they have sub identities or labels of a specific type of feeding method. You can look at it in those two ways. It's a different type of identity label, or it's a specific feeding label. And it's basically to characterize your feeding preferences. Now, there is the term energy vampire. This is the get your notebook out, your pens, right? Start taking notes because this is when it gets a little confusing. um, so psychic vampire, right? There is that term, but there is a lot of people in the community that still goes by the term energy vampire, which is a lot more blatant, right? It's a lot more obvious. Now, this term can carry a negative connotation as some associate it with like a narcissistic person or someone that's draining or has manipulative behaviors. Like in the spiritual community, it often refers to you know, to a specific energetic feeding practices. Uh, Within the witchy community, right? They will often say energy vampires. They steal your energy and yada yada, and they really kind of like demonize towards psychic vamps. Um, but they often get referred to as energy vampires. Are we keeping up so far?
I
have I
think so.
have I explained it well?
I think it did. I do remember there being, I don't remember when it was. I think it was like the 80s, maybe 70s, where there was a big thing once phones came out. A lot of people would compliment, or not compliment, but talk about talking to a certain person.
Mm-hmm.
And when they first called them, they were all energetic and happy and ready to go. And then by the end of the call, they felt lethargic, tired, just didn't have any energy to do anything. I wonder
Yeah,
why that was.
I
Hmm.
wonder why. Were the vampires using
But
phones to steal energy? We don't know.
I mean, I'm not going
But
to get into specifics, but yeah,
yeah.
could they could they have invented the phone just to steal energy from others? I wonder.
Is that why in the vampire community there was an entire phone service line, a full like a phone communication line? We're gonna
Hmm.
start drama. They're gonna be like, "Oh, Project V said that this." They'll be posted at
I mean,
VCN
if they want to
News.
start drama, I'll give them some drama
No,
to
no,
start.
no, 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 no,
Why do you think
no.
welcome mats were invented?
Oh my god! But
Garlic?
welcome, Mats. But like the vampires in general, like the term has always been so demonized. You see it in politics. Like people will get referred to as vampires in politics all the time. People who are narcissist or manipulative or very draining are called energy vampires. So there is a lot of like it there's a lot of like a psychological connotations to it. I mean, you see a lot of therapists that may reference it, I feel like, in articles. I feel like a lot of
Yeah.
psychic vamps have gone to try to google more stuff about their identity, and they just find therapist articles. They're like, do you feel drained? Is your bestie tiring you all the time? you know
Why does that sound like an infomercial?
If so, come and
Oh,
buy this psychic energy vampire spray. One spray away washes the psychic vampire away. I'm actually referencing something you can find on Etsy, by the way. There is Etsy witches that have made anti-psychic vampirism spray. You spray I guess, yourself, and it like makes the psychic energy vampire, whatever you want to call it, just not want to interact with you. So it's very interesting. Um,
I have to assume that only works physically, not remotely.
well, if you spray in the eyes, you can make anybody go away.
I mean, that's also called assault. We're not gonna go there today.
No,
Don't assault people. It's
no, no, no.
rude.
It's rude, especially for vampires. That's so anti-vampire. We don't do that.
You
No,
need
no.
consent.
Exactly.
Let's consent to spray an eye first. Then it's okay.
Then it's okay. Then it's fine. Some people might be into that. You never know. So, so we've gotten energy vampire down. So now we have the emotional vampire, emo vampire.
Ooh.
No one says that, Lady Nova. No, nobody says that. Okay, so we. I
Hmm.
would say it's another offshoot of like similar to energy vampire, but it more so is like vampires that specifically feed on emotions, like other people's emotions. Now, this is a bit of a gray area in, the realm of psychic vampires, right? Like, especially when it comes to consent and ethics. There is some vampires who will unethically rile up other people to feed off of their energies, and they're specifically feeding off of that emotional energy. So again, this is like a form of feeding tactic, right? Like you would consider a lot of
Hmm.
these as a form of like feeding practices. So, when you think of somebody's purposely riling up another just to feed off of them, that doesn't sound very good. No, no, it doesn't. Uh, so I feel like emotional vampire, it does have negative connotations. While some people may like, you may see this within energy workers, they will take negative emotions off of like the friends or their clients, whatever they're doing with their energy work with, they'll take that negative energy off of them, so it's not having that
Yes,
baggage staying. And I would say that's a very positive way to do that.
yes, but that's also with consent too, isn't it?
Yes,
Most of the time.
yes, of course.
Yeah. Keyword consent.
Consent. We love consent. Consent is priority.
Yes, it is.
So now we have Eros, which used to be known as tantric, but that label was removed from the community in like 2020 pandemic era. Uh, so Eros is a type of psychic vampire that feeds specifically on intimate energies, if you catch what I mean. So this could be physical, this could not be physical. It is often, set aside from the psychic energy or psychic vampire label, right? As it's more of a very intimate, you know, label, a very intimate practice. And I also noticed with this specific feeding practice is also becoming highly associated with hybrids, I've noticed. I can't say why on this podcast because I don't want it to get taken down, but there is a reason. I think, people
Well, I,
find new interests.
I will say this form of feeding is 18 plus.
Yes.
It
Yes.
will not be discussed here further than what do you call it? Metaphors. Yes, metaphors.
Yes. It is an
You can
18
easily look
plus
it up.
subject.
It's yes, it is there.
It is
And I've
there.
noticed that as well. A lot of hybrids tend to go for that more. And I'm
Hmm.
kind of curious as to why.
I will probably tell you out of out of podcast, off
All
recording,
right.
off record, because we have to make sure we are following guidelines here. Yes, Project V guidelines, and
Yes, we do.
also YouTube guidelines.
Yes, we do. All right. Moving on to the next form of feeding.
I feel like there is so many. So
There really
there,
are. I think it's better to break it down into what's the word I'm looking for? The type.
just yeah.
So, yeah, more like elemental, which is one that a lot of people do. They'll feed on water elements, they'll feed on earth, spiritual, which again, we'll go to that a little bit more.
Hmm.
Uh, and some have a preference in that as well.
It's like a very like controversial like identity label. I think this is where some people come in and they're like, no, that's not a vampire. No, no. But like I've noticed, like some people will refer to these people that identify as such as hippie vampires or tree hugger vampires. Um,
Well, why?
I I don't know. It's kind of I think I've never had an issue with like elemental vampires. I think the concept is interesting. I don't identify as such, but I've known a couple who do, and it's because they are vegan. So, which is interesting. for to be a vegan and a vampire, but I'll explain. Let me explain. Let me explain. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. Um,
Well, then tell me what it is.
Now there's one
Let me
that
in.
I'll use it as an example. So they view, feeding on other people as unethical as a whole, which is, I get it. Like, that's interesting. A lot of people feel guilt when they do feed off of other people. So I could so get why they would identify as like an elemental vampire because they get the energies through nature and such. But there's a counter argument within the community where people are saying, well, that's just normal. Like, you go outside to get vitamin D, you go outside to ground yourself with nature, and you oftentimes just feel better. It's just better for you. And, I think these are two valid points. I think,
Like a health walk.
yeah, I think these are two very, like, valid points here. I I always thought that identity is
I
kind of like interesting and underrated in my opinion.
I think it has to stem more with our technological lifestyles now. When you think about it, because we're always indoors, we're always at work, we're always staring at a screen in our face 24/7,
Mhm.
and I think a lot of it has to come from uh, the recent medical advice that's been going around. Like, if you feel down, go take a walk in nature. If you
Mhm.
feel like you're angry at everyone, go take a shower. There's certain things that I think a lot of the medical community is pointing out that helps. I don't remember the Japanese term for it, but that's where I think it came from originally, because they have 5 different things that help you with certain aspects. And I think the medical community is starting to see that as a possible unmedicated route to help
Mhm.
people do that. And I think that's where it stems from. But now I could be wrong.
No,
Y'all can comment down below and let me know, but
let us know. I bet you
let us know if
Hurlwayne
I'm wrong.
Hurlwayne will be all up in the comments like like fingers typing so fast. Um but I think it stems down to really how you view energy, how you view energy work. Like, I really, and the archetypes within the community. Like, I'm very open, and the reason why, like, I identify as hybrid specifically is because, like, the archetypes, like, I align very pretty in the middle, like, archetype wise, but also like science saying I do practice both. Like, I'm pretty split in the middle when it comes to that. Now, will that change? Probably. I feel like that changes for a lot of people depending on, like, specific needs being altered for whatever reason. It could be with age, it could be with different underlying conditions. You know, you never know. Um,
Gotcha.
so I would, and there's astral vampire, which I'm gonna be biased. I don't really consider like really as a whole specific feeding identity term, a ways of feeding. Controversial, I know, but when you think about it, a lot of the feeding that you do is astrally. Like, that's kind of the whole premise, I feel like. Like, yes, it could be physical, but like when you start getting down into, the depths of it, like, people talk about tendril feeding. They feed through tendrils. That's literally through the astral realm. Like that, I feel like there shouldn't really be a term that stand alone like that, such as astral vampire. I don't think it's really needed, but I will point it out for those who do identify as such.
It's still spiritual, I believe.
Mhm.
So yeah, I don't see that being or needing a specific title
Mhm.
or identity, but I guess it would make it easier to explain to others. Again, it's more about what the meaning behind the word is more than the form of it.
Yeah, like I don't know. I think it has more of a negative connotation now, in my opinion, because I've noticed a lot of people who have identified as an astral vampire specifically, like I've noticed that were pretty unethical. Like they would claim that they would like astral project to your location and feed off of you in your sleep. Like really interesting things. Right? Like they would say like very unconsensual thing. And I'm not saying all people who identify as astral vampires are unethical in that aspect, but I've noticed it's been a very common thing that people say who happen to.
We all know with every title, there's always a few that ruin the bunch.
Yeah, yeah, literally.
It doesn't matter if it's Psy, if it's Sang. You're gonna get those that always stain the name or the title or the
Mhm.
identity.
Mhm. And that's like with anything, even outside the
Mhm.
VC, literally anything. I mean, that's how witchcraft was. That's how like anything witchy
Oh yeah.
was for the longest time. Um, but yeah. So again, like these are various like labels, and whether as you want to see it as a label for yourself as an identity, or you just want to see it as a terminology for feeding, like that is very valid, and you don't have to even identify as any of those. You really don't. Now, archetypes. We've been talking a lot about archetypes, and it's been something within Project V that has gotten a lot more popularized. I do have an article over archetypes that I really just need to publish. Like I said, I have it made, but I don't know. I keep retyping it and editing it. I don't know. I don't know why, but like I have one already in the Project V classes that describe archetypes, but there's so many. There's so many, but I think there's four core identity types that I would say is very, I don't know, I think it's very common within the community, at least within lingo and speech, right?
What's that?
So,
What are the four that you're referring to?
there is two that I would say that would describe like your alignment when it comes to old VC versus the new. And that is traditionalist and modernist, which was coined by Black Rose Society. Shout out, shout out Black Rose Society. I think this, type of archetype has been so useful, especially for me. Like it's been very useful to explain my ideologies within the community. Uh, but for me, a lot of people think I'm straight up modernist. I understand why. If you would see what Project V is about and what we're literally supporting the future of the vampire community, you would think that's very modernist. Um, no, I'm very split in the middle. Like I do have a lot of traditionalist values as well, and you know when it comes to traditionalists and modernists, I would say there's this underlining tension between the two. And that's literally stems down to like basic society, right? That's always blaming the generation after the other, right? You know, it's kind of like a cultural difference in your upbringing and where your ideologies may, play into that. So if you're probably like born in like, I don't know, like the 70s, 80s, 90s, you may be traditionalist. You may be traditionalist because that's kind of like around the vampire community where it was its upbringing. So if you were in that community around that time, you may just have traditionalist, ideologies. Now, if you're joining the community like late 2000s, like I don't know, I would say 2005 to current, I would say you would be more modernist leaning, but that's not always the case. I would feel like I'm a good example of that. Like I joined the community around like 20 2015, 2016. I really need to do the math on that. It's been about 10 years. So,
I I also think it's more like who taught you and where you came in at.
yes. Yes.
Like just because you joined the community back in like your area, like the 2015, 2016, 18 era, you could still have fallen in to to groups that were more traditionalists versus
Yes.
modernized.
You
That is also a valid thing.
Yes, you quite literally could be both. You could be my age and straight up be a traditionalist, or you could be modernist. Like you said, it depends like what community you fell into and what they teach and what they value. And it can also just be again like where you grew up and how that shapes your values into VC politics. And VC politics does play a role into whether you do align with traditionalists and modernists. There's no like avoiding that type of concept. Like I personally think that's also another thing that plays into whether if you fall into one or the other. And or both, right? So, a lot of people think
Mhm.
I'm very heavily modernist leading when I'm very in the middle when it comes to that. And I feel like that's because, where I grew up and were what spaces I was into at the time, right? You know, I think Black Rose Society created a really cool archetype, and they have different ones. I think they have another one that's like materialistic and spiritualistic. I think those are
Hmm.
interesting too. I don't see those used really as often, but traditionalist modernist, I'm a big fan of that. Like I have an entire article written about it on the Project V blog site, of me really talking about, more in depth of traditionalist and modernist ideals. And, you know, again, there is a bit of a rift again between it's generational, but also like values of VC politics. There's a little bit of like a tension. I wouldn't say it's like the Psy versus Sang war type of tension, but it's just kind of underlining, right?
I think what may help too is giving a idea about each one. What would a traditionalist view, I guess, let's say, psi as, or what would be the difference between a traditionalist and modernist in that aspect
So,
for the viewers
modernist,
or listeners, I should say.
yeah. So, modernist, I would say, is like somebody is very future going about the community. They may like, you know, they want to see. It's very interesting because again, there's like such a blend between the two. Uh, you know, they're very future going. They might want to construct new concepts, like new ideas, new identity labels, new ways to explaining these identities, or they want to create new resources. Be more, they're a lot more open. You may notice like social media wise, they might be out here on TikTok doing their dancey dance, right? You know, like very new gen. While traditionalists, I feel like, they're more deep rooted in like the old days. They'll more likely chase nostalgia. They're nostalgia chasers, and they really value the old values of like, family and secrecy, and that's what the community was really back then, was like, viewing each other as family, and like this could be in like a house structure. You know, they also have a lot more older ideologies about identity. They may like define things differently than what modernists may do. Um,
Hmm.
and then, within my blog, I do believe there is such thing as a toxic traditionalist, where again, not every traditionalist like that. Like even like, I'm literally partnered with a community that is like very, in my opinion, is traditionalist based, and their owner is a really nice traditionalist, right? Like they have really, again, family values, and they want to pass down knowledge towards, the future generations, and hope that the newer generations can, grow within the community. And that's what I think is a good thing. But toxic traditionalists, they may preach a specific type of ideology and then just completely toss out everything else. They won't even acknowledge it. They may even use like, oh, true vampire, true vampirism, or they may like I wouldn't say gatekeep, but like
They'll
prevents
close it
the,
all off behind closed doors.
I don't know. No, more like shut down new ideas like Project V. Like a lot of like, you know, I would say a decent amount of traditionalists were like very against Project V and what Project V was becoming. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it's because they were scared because something new was happening and they weren't sure how it was going to impact the community. And that's valid, but you can make it
New things are
toxic.
scary.
You're right, but you can react in a toxic manner, and that's how you become very, become a toxic traditionalist in that way. You chase nostalgia so much that you prevent the evolution of the VC. You prevent new things happening, and you expect people to abide by your ideologies. And if you don't, you aren't correct. You're wrong. You know. So
Yep.
again, not all traditionalists are like that. Again, there's a lot of nice traditionalists out there that do not think like that. They 100% do support the future of the vampire community. They do support new, you know, new resources, new creations. Like they encourage it. So I wouldn't let toxic traditionalists hold you down in any way. There, I would say I would just think of them as somebody who's scared about the future. That's how I view them. I don't think they really truly mean any like crazy harm. Uh, it's just really perspective. And again, could be on the generation that you might be Gen X, Gen Z, millennial, whatever, right? You might have grew up in different political climates, you different cultures. This can, I feel like, really affect how you identify. And again, I it would be interesting to hear what, like, Mikhail did write an article over traditionalism, I believe, on the Project V website. So there,
Hmm.
there is a blog on a bit of his ideologies to which he coined in VRS. So, I mean, if you're interested more about that, I would check that out. It's very cool. Uh, Now, the other two, medical and spiritual. So this is something that I've been kind of like been typing out because I think, a lot of people fall into this. You could be one, the other, or both. Um, I I don't know how to describe this graph, but there's a graph I was working on. I don't know the type of graph, but like it's kind of like one of those crossing graphs, or like the ones that are like a hexagon. And when you identify as a specific label and you have like psychic or sanguinarian, like these spectrums could make these various points of like archetypes fall differently. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. Like if I had a picture, I would show you right now. Because like I have like an old piece I've been working on when it comes to trying to like get this into a graph form, and it's very interesting to see like depending how you identify and your generation and all that kind of like puts you in a blip somewhere on these four archetypes. It's very interesting. But medical, right? You see everything like with your identity being medical based, physical, right? I think medical sanguinarians would obviously fit into that, despite not, identifying as a vampire, but they may like, right? They might feel, akin to archetypes when it comes to like medical, right? I feel like, that'd be interesting. But, they may see their specific identity being medical while there's spiritualist, right? I feel like Sangs are more, or sorry, Psy is more likely to fall into that spiritual archetype category when describing their identity. So I feel like that one's pretty simple to explain. Like, again, you can be
Yeah.
one, the other, or both. And like for me, like I also fall in the middle when it comes to that. I would say it depends my mood. Let's be real. It depends on my mood. One week I might be a little bit more woo woo, the other week, and then, that other week I'm like, there needs to be a discovery. Like I need to do more retesting and see, any more underlining conditions and stuff like that. It really depends. And I feel like some people might like, relate to that. And I think that's good. I think that keeps you sane within the community. Like being able to just question like that and like really evolve you as a person when you question. I think it's really cool to see like the various perspectives and how it changes. Like we get a lot of new people that come in and they'll stick around for a bit and you can like really see like their ideologies change since they are in Project V and they see how many different people who have so many different identities and we all sorts of ages and generations and they kind of like adapt to some of those ideologies that come from different people. It's really cool.
I think what helps Project V too is that because we're so open about everything, that when you come in as one, you can leave completely different, and that's okay.
Hmm.
You can change what you believe in. You can change how you perceive your condition or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wrong with that. You may not know information that you recently found out, and you identify as that because in the end, that's how you feel, and that's completely okay.
Yeah, I
Don't let
honestly,
anyone out there tell you, no, you have to be this or nothing at all. No.
yes, preach. Literally,
Because
literally.
in the end, regardless if you're a saying or a psi or however you want to believe it, there is no documented medical science of any kind that states one is truer than the other.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And
At least not that I've seen.
not that I've seen. You might wake up the next day and there's gonna be like a whole document. Well, damn.
Right? Leaked
Well,
online.
leaked.
Vampires are real. The world is coming to an end.
Oh my god. But like
Well, I mean, there could.
the Great Vampire Scare, the the
Yes.
vampire panic.
We don't need
But
another satanic panic based on vampires. We don't need that.
man, I
I mean, if
wonder.
you want to start that, I mean, go
No,
for it. But
no. But like like you were saying, like if like I wouldn't trust anybody that tries to tell you who you are because only you can know that. And
yep,
also your therapist. I feel like they could also know that too. I think they could
your
know
therapist.
yeah. I think they could know a healthy amount about you. Cuz like, there's a lot of people who also view their identity as like they like I don't know, there's a lot of people that question like if autism has something to do with how they perceive their identity and yada yada. And
That is
I'm
true.
there it's again like it's all about perception. So, you know, nobody on the internet is going to know who you truly are. They're going to think they know, but they don't. They really don't. Like they'll try to explain to you like what you are, but they won't know cuz like it's the internet. You only show so much. I mean, everyone in the VC uses aliases, I would hope.
Yes.
Right? There is so much
If
that
not, we have a
happens.
security idea about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's just so much that happens, off the screen that, you know, that's your own personal business. And if there's like a
I think in the end,
community that's trying to tell you something that like trying to force you into a specific ideology, I would run. Run for the hills.
or question it every time.
Yes.
I I think in the end, it's all about how you identify as if you wish to identify as such.
Yes.
No term may be 100% to you, and that's okay. A term may be 100% to you, and a week later, you may change it. That's okay as well. That's why the umbrella term is there.
The buffet, the
Vampire.
salad, the salad buffet.
Yes, the salad
Yes.
buffet.
I
Come
still
and get the
want
bowl of lettuce.
I still want art of that.
Yes, Can you imagine like having a vampire salad like just channel on the Discord and everyone just like, yeah, this is how I identify as. Here's my salad.
Okay, but that would be cute though. I would love to see that. Just in like just post an announcement. Okay, everybody, I have a template here for you. Now you start drawing on it and draw. It'd be so funny.
Yep.
I would love
Draw
it.
your salad.
Draw your
This is
salad.
what this means. Yep. This is what this means. This is what this means. Go crazy. Have fun. Show us what your percentages are.
What if sang and sai were a specific ingredient in a salad? What would you say it would be?
Ooh, that's hard. Because I would consider the term vampire the main ingredient, which is lettuce.
Yes.
Um, and then I guess specifically Sing and Psy, I would say probably Sing would be the dressing, just because there's only but so many identities with that,
Mm-hmm.
or at least sub archetypes of that. And then the toppings would be Psy. Like you have, I can't name them all, but you have peppers, you have mushrooms, you have tomatoes, you have olives, you have croutons, cheese, all kinds of cheeses too. I mean, it all
if I
just really depends.
if I were to build a salad, a vampire salad, it would be lettuce being the umbrella term, and then sang will be tomatoes because red.
I could see that.
And then
Yeah.
and then psychic vampires will be cheese. And then hybrids would be the dressing that combines all of it. Yes.
I could see that. Yeah. Maybe kind of a boring salad though. Lettuce, cheese, tomato, and dressing.
Yes.
That has to be an idea we play with later on.
Yeah, later. Maybe somebody will draw it for us. Give us a design. Again, I will post it. I will
Yes.
post it on the website. Seriously. If you draw me a vampire salad and explain the ingredients, I will post it. I will give you a shout out on the
Um,
website.
Project V members, if you are listening to this, give us some ideas about a vampire salad and what
Yes.
the toppings and stuff will represent.
Make it a whole thing.
Yes, we will.
Alrighty. I
Um,
it's been an
is there
hour.
is there it has been. Is there anything
Yes.
else you can think of that we haven't gone over? Because I think that's a pretty good breakdown about the depth of the vampire identity.
I do think so. Like the very like basic terminology, like yeah, but without going so in depth into archetypes, like there's so much I could possibly say about traditionalist and modernist and spiritual and medical and also the science saying war. Don't get me started on the vampire pagan conflict because that was a whole thing.
I think that's more uh of a rambling episode than anything.
Yes. It's just going
You have
to
to.
be me trauma dumping on you about the stuff that I learned over the years.
I mean, maybe if the people want that, we may have to do a exclusive 8 hour long rant. Might be able to turn that into a classroom idea.
Oh, classroom idea. We did do a vamp
Yeah.
discussion over traditionalist and modernist, and uh, no. It was the Sang versus Sang war. My bad. I don't know
Okay.
why I said that. I think I said that because of Mikhail. So, I when I think of Mikhail, I think of traditionalist. I don't know. It's just there. So with that panel, I was trying to get Mikhail and people from the Red Cellar and people from different
Mhm.
identity groups and different times of the Psy versus Sang War, and to really have a panel of like, hey, this is what happened back then, and this is the cause of it, and this is how we avoid repetition. It was very successful. I think it was a very good discussion. I think like 20 plus people joined that specific event. It was very
So,
cool.
with the end of this episode, what can our listeners expect for next one? Any ideas, or do you want to keep that a secret?
Hmm. Maybe we could go more in depth into the archetypes, but like I feel like the archetypes and then like the feuds within the community might have to be two different like kinds of episodes just because I don't know, like the feuds are so long and everlasting. Like I don't know. Like compared to like talking about archetypes, I feel like that's so easy but could also like lead towards the end of the episode being like, "Oh, so this is when complications start happening." And then like the next episode after that would be actually over the feuds. It'd be like a soft opener.
That could work.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't
So
know.
archetypes next, maybe. We'll figure it
Maybe.
out. We have a month, so
We
we'll see
have a
what
whole
happens.
month to plan.
That we do.
But yeah, I think this was a very fun discussion. I think this is the longest podcast episode that we've had so far. Usually our episodes are 30 minutes long. This one's been an hour and 10 minutes of us rambling, talking about vampire salads. It's been great. It's been fun. But yeah, I
This
think
is only the beginning.
this is only the beginning.
There will be a
Alrighty.
5-hour podcast at some point.
So at some point,
It will happen.
it might be the final episode if we're going to do one. That will be the final kaboom. Alrighty then. We'll see you all in the next episode. Goodbye.
Goodbye.